Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. Big week on the program. Two more of the local candidates in next week's provincial election give you their pitch to be your representative. We'll also hear from Green Party leader Mike Schreiner. Glam It Up Barrie is returning after a several-year absence, raising funds for the Women and Children's Shelter, and the March Mullet campaign returns with a twist this year. We get the conversation started after this. As you know, we've extended an invitation to candidates in Barrie's two provincial ridings, as well as the leaders of the four main parties, to come in, give you their pitch, tell you how they will make life better for you locally, and their party will make life better for all Ontarians. Some have responded in kind, some we're still reaching out to. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner, one of the quickest to respond. He's with Barrie 360's Ian MacLennan.
Mike, you've cast this election and you indicated during the release of the Green Party platform as a self-interested political gambit by Premier Ford. What did you mean by that?
Well, when the Premier called this election, when we're facing a tariff threat from the Donald Trump administration, to me that was irresponsible and selfish. We should be working across party, jurisdictional, and sectoral lines to show strength through unity to push back against tariffs from Trump. Instead, we're in this partisan election that I think is primarily being driven by Doug Ford's desire to get out ahead of the RCMP investigation into the $8.3 billion Greenbelt scandal. I mean, they've been looking for an excuse to call an early election for about 8 months now. And I think to play politics with tariffs is very dangerous because so many Canadian jobs are at risk.
You suggest that you talk about tariffs, but do you believe that maybe that focus is, as some people have indicated, so it takes the heat off other issues like education, housing, and healthcare?
You know, I can tell you, and I've been knocking on a lot of doors around the province, and when I ask people what your number one concern is, affordability, especially housing affordability, is what people tell me. And, you know, Doug Ford's failed to address the housing affordability crisis. I mean, you see housing starts up across the rest of the country at historic lows in Ontario, and prices are at historic highs. And so as a result, you have a whole generation of young people wondering if they'll ever be able to afford a home. You know, there's no place in Ontario where a minimum wage worker can afford average monthly rent. And you have 81,000 people experiencing homelessness in this province. You know, we have 2.5 million Ontarians without access to a doctor, huge growth in hallway medicine and delays in emergency departments, children learning in overcrowded classrooms. Those are the kinds of conversations I'm having people with at the door. Yes, there's anxiety around the Trump's tariffs, but that anxiety is layered on top of their affordability concerns, especially when it comes to housing.
Well, talking about affordability and your platform indicating building 2 million homes in a decade, how much will be affordable? Because when new housing is built in Barrie, a lot of the questions, but how much is that going to be affordable? Will I be able to buy or rent?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's exactly why we have to get past these false conversations that solve the housing crisis, or only government's going to solve the housing crisis. We need both. One of the reasons that we're saying let's remove fees and taxes on starter homes under 2,000 square feet built within existing urban boundaries is we have to start incentivizing starter homes again, and we have to make sure that they're built where we already have infrastructure in place and not favor over our farmland, our wetlands, our green spaces, our green belt, because that's the lowest cost way to increase housing supply. We also need to make sure we bring in protections for renters. So for those homes, rental homes built, that they're affordable for people. And finally, we need government to get back to doing what it was doing prior to 1995, and that's providing government-assisted funding for nonprofit, co-op, and permanent supported housing. 93% of the deeply affordable homes built in Ontario were built before 1995. We have to get back to building those kinds of homes so we have deep affordability in our housing market.
On to healthcare, Mike, you indicated today that you would cancel Highway 413 that was in your platform, as well as the Bradford bypass. Some of that money, I believe $10 billion from the canceled project, would be used for healthcare instead. Where does it go? And I also like to touch on the fact that you also said that you're going to be able to find, or your party will find, a family doctor for everybody in a specific period of time. That's what the Liberals and NDP are promising. Different sort of, scenarios. But so how are you going to make that magic happen?
Well, And we need healthcare, not highways right now, especially when it comes to Highway 413, when we have a perfectly good Highway 407 right next to it that's completely underutilized. Why would we want to spend $10 to $12 billion on a highway that would take people 30 to 60 seconds when we have 2.5 million Ontarians without access to a doctor? So let's use that money to hire 3,500 family doctors. Let's have those doctors operate in family health teams, or we have nurse practitioners and other healthcare providers operating at their full scope of practice. Let's reduce the administrative burden on family doctors. So one, we attract and retain more family doctors. And two, we have them focused on caring for patients, not doing paperwork. And so, the Ontario Greens, we've put out, we're the first party to put out a costed platform. We've shown where we're going to raise money, how we're going to spend that money. And a high priority for us is building homes people can afford, making sure people have access to healthcare services, and reversing the Ford government's cuts to our public education system.
Would you lift tolls off the 407?
You know what? We are proposing not to remove all the tolls off of 407 because the private portion of the 407, we don't make that determination, and I don't want to say something that I can't deliver on to people. But the one thing we can do on the 407 is we can pay the tolls of truckers. Getting those trucks off of the 401, estimates are that would cost $4 billion over the next 30 years, would help alleviate gridlock immediately at a fraction of the cost of building Highway 413. That's a realistic, pragmatic, fiscally responsible way we can reduce gridlock and better utilize existing transportation infrastructure.
Now, I think most of the public's well aware of the situation with the current government and the green belt. You talk about the food belt to protect farmlands. If you could elaborate on what that food belt would look like and where would those lands be protected, and would that include the green belt?
Yeah, so it would include the green belt. It basically is saying, let's permanently protect prime farmland in the province of Ontario. Only 0.5% of Ontario's landmass is prime agricultural lands. We need to protect those lands because it's our food security, especially at a time when we're looking at potential trade wars. We need to be self-sufficient in food and protect our food security. Also, the food and farming economy generates over $50 billion for Ontario's economy, employing over 875,000 people. Why would we be putting that under threat by losing 319 acres of farmland each and every day in Ontario? So we're saying permanently protect prime farmland. Let's create a food belt to do it. And let's ensure we bring forward the Ontario Greens Grow Ontario strategy because we want to maintain the profitability of family farms.
I don't know if it was in the platform. I haven't seen all the numbers on the pages, but you're well aware about the opioid crisis, homelessness encampments. Have you touched on that, or will you touch on that in terms of the Premier would like to close down those encampments, open up hubs, as he calls them? What's your solution to deal with the crisis that is impacting cities across this province?
Yeah, it's just so sad that under the Ford government we have such a crisis occurring in Ontario, and one component of that is the 81,000 people in our province who are experiencing homelessness right now. That is so unacceptable. And the intersecting crisis of poverty, mental health addictions, and homelessness has to be addressed. Locking people up in jail for being homeless, like the Premier is proposing, that's just wrong. It's wrong morally, but it's also fiscally wrong. It's way more expensive to put somebody in jail than it is to actually house somebody. So that's exactly why the Ontario Greens are committing to building 250,000 affordable nonprofit and co-op homes and 60,000 deeply affordable permanent supportive homes with wraparound mental health, addictions, employment, and other supports so we can end homelessness in Ontario.
Mike, obviously the polls indicate right now, to be frank, that your party, you will not become the next premier. Things can change. What would be the second best thing you would like to see if you're elected? And is it more MPPs? What's the goal for the Green Party outside of becoming number one at Queen's Park?
Well, Well, I of course think I would make a solid premier for people of Ontario, because I always put people before politics. But I also recognize, to go from the 4th to the 1st is a bit of a leap. And so our hope is, as the only party to double our caucus since the last election, is that we're going to continue to grow our caucus. A lot of people say that, Mike Schreiner and Ashlyn Clancy punch well above our weight at Queen's Park. And I believe that is true. And I think having additional Greens like Matt Richter, Parry Sound Muskoka, who almost won in the last election, having strong independent voices like Matt Richter at Queen's Park to put the needs of their riding ahead of what I would tell Matt or the Premier would tell Matt. I always tell people in Kitchener or Parry Sound or any other riding that I'm not the Green candidate's boss. You're their boss, and they should be your advocate at Queen's Park, not the leader's voice in the riding.
It's Green Party leader Mike Schreiner. Still to come on the program, Andrew Harrigan running for the NDP in Barrie-Innisfil, and Rose Zacharias, the Liberal candidate in Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte. Time to get your glam on, Barrie, and make a difference at the same time. Glam It Up Barrie is back after an extended absence. COVID had something to do with that. But Shakir Barmore is revved up and ready to go again. He joins us now. Bring us up to speed.
We tried last 2 years to bring it back, but it is so much work to bring small businesses together, especially the hairstylists, the makeup artists, the photographers. They're pretty busy nowadays, and getting them together is challenging.
So tell us what it's all about. What's happening? What is Glam It Up Barrie?
So Glam It Up Barrie was created in 2014, and it got a very big name in 2016, 17, and 18. And it was all about community, small businesses, and charity. And charity, by charity I meant was raising funds for different charity organizations in Barrie. And we did an incredible job bringing businesses together and hosting an event where community was catered to glam. And everything was done under one roof, and it was incredible.
How many businesses do you have involved in this?
So if you will ask me, Dan, in 5 events in total, we went more than 700 businesses together.
Wow.
In 5 events, yes.
So this is a passion in the community. It's not just your passion.
Very true. And hairstylists, makeup artists, photographers, they love what they do. So they come, they donate their time, and they actually glam up the community just the way they would do it to their clients. And the community, in turn, pays $75, which is a donation, of course, to the charity, Women and Children Shelter. But at the same time, they get to create a portfolio of their photos, which they never had a chance to do so.
Who was coming in to have that done? Anybody in particular?
So anyone can walk in with $5 entry, or they can get the glam experience for $75. And in that $75, they get their pre-facial, makeup, hair, and photos. And like you asked, anyone can walk in and get this done.
So you can walk in and just watch for $5?
That is correct.
And if you want the whole treatment, $75?
Exactly.
Benefits the Women and Children Center, and you walk out with this wonderful portfolio.
Very true.
When's it happening?
March 2nd. It's a Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, families are pretty, open, so they have a chance. And also, hairstylists, makeup artists, photographers are more available on a Sunday. So we chose Sunday for that reason. And it's happening at the Barrie Chrysler. So Barrie Chrysler was generous enough to donate the showroom. So we're hosting it right inside the showroom, and it's going to be an incredible turnout.
Do you need to sign up ahead of time, or can you just show up?
Better to sign up ahead of time so we can schedule you, and it's happening on Eventbrite. So if you go on Eventbrite and look for Glam It Up Barrie, the tickets are $5 and $75.
Good to have you back.
Absolutely, Dan. It's such a pleasure.
And such a good cause as well, which is very, very important.
Very true. That's what we are here for, supporting the community, supporting the small businesses, and supporting the charity organizations.
Again, ticket information and more can be found at eventbrite.ca. A new face running for the NDP in the provincial election, Andrew Harrigan carrying the orange flag. Here again is Ian MacLennan.
Why are you running for the New Democrats?
Good question. It's been a long time coming. I have been involved with the party for quite a while now. I am my full-time job, I work in social services and child protection. big union activist. I'm actually the current union president for my local 304 through Opsu Sefpo. I've been doing that for many, many years. The fight is in me. It's always been in me to, stand up against, in those cases, toxic bullying employers, and just to advocate for real working people for, union jobs are good jobs, right? I've been involved with it for many years, and it's a natural transition, and I think this was just the time for it.
This is the time for it, but both the NDP and Liberals are saying this wasn't the time for an election in Ontario. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It's a snap election. It's been a complete scramble. I think, me being very strength-based, I think this is an opportunity to really flip the tables. Because it's a snap election, I think there's no parties are fully ready, and I think this is going to give a lot of people, even on the blue side, are looking at this as this was not a good use of money.
So what is a good use of money? And let's talk about some of the issues that are top of mind. And many Ontarians have not touched on tariffs. I think it was 4th or 5th overall. Healthcare. Your leader, Marit Stiles, said she's going to double medical residency positions up north. She's talked about legislating safe nurses in terms of ratio, working with patients, et cetera, hiring 15,000 nurses. Everybody's going to have a family doctor. People have heard that certain things from the Ford government. Everyone's going to have, no more hallway medicine.
Correct.
What's different under an NDP government? Why will it be different?
I think that's just for the public is just going to have to wait and see, right? Like we've had how many years where we've had all these empty promises about, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that. I myself, I'm a father of 2 boys. I didn't have a family doctor until recently for them, about a 2.5-year waiting list. You have to believe in the party. You have to believe that Ontarians are upset. They're not happy with what has been told to them before. I get it. I get the voter apathy. Like, why are we going to believe you this time? What I can say is the NDP fights for good, hardworking, real Ontarians. Like I shouldn't say real Ontarians, hardworking Ontarians for positive change, right? So I would just ask put your vote in the NDP for this round.
Do you think voters are willing to wait and see what the NDP can do?
I think yes. I think at this point, there has been people are frustrated and tired. With we were talking about healthcare there, but the cost of absolutely everything is astronomical. Like I make a very decent wage, and I used to say to myself, Andrew, if I've only got to this level, I'd be like, I'd be laughing, I'd be set. Now I'm past that level, and it's a struggle for people making a decent living wage. Like my wife and I were having this conversation a little while ago. I don't know how people survive on minimum wage, even $20 an hour.
Well, let's talk about the issue very front and center in Barrie, homelessness.
Yes.
The NDP's promised to end encampments, tackle chronic issue of homelessness, creating 60,000 supportive housing units, pay for shelter costs. Right now, that's on municipalities. So you see what's going on in Barrie and in Innisfil, too, in pockets.
Yes.
What answer can you give for people in Barrie who want to help those who are experiencing homelessness but are tired of looking at encampments and their parks overrun?
And I think the difference between our party's leader and the Ford government, they just want to move encampments. They just we're going to tackle them. They're not going to be here. NIMBY, they're not going to be in my backyard. Whereas opposed to the NDP, that we understand that's an issue, but it's got to be, there's got to be like a multi-pronged approach. There's got to be very solution-based, right? You can't just say, we're not going to have encampments anymore, and that's going to be it. Like these are real people. These are children and youth that are in there. The drug epidemic in these encampments is just it's awful. So that's why I believe obviously tackling the problem, because it is a problem, but it also needs to be there also needs to be solutions, like how to help people that are struggling long term get back on their feet.
Moving to the same area, affordability, 7,000 people use the food bank in Barrie alone, I believe, a month. Under an NDP government, a family of 4 would get $122 per month sort of grocery rebate. It's not a chunk of change, a big chunk of change, but it's something, I guess. How are you going to take those people away from the food bank system and get back up on their feet? Are you alarmed by those numbers?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, but in my field, I see it on a regular basis. So it's amazing how desensitized you can be to a family struggling for food, right? I would just have to say, it's a start. It's get people the emergency funds that they need just so they can, get their kids a couple of decent lunches for school, what have you. It's not a lot. That's why I believe in this party tackling, it's a multi-pronged approach, because the $120 isn't going to do anything if groceries prices are not lowered.
Are you suggesting the NDP is for the, I don't say the little guy that's sexist, the little person, as opposed, you don't believe the progressive conservatives have done enough to support those that are struggling?
No, I don't believe that.
What area? And give me an example where you feel they're neglecting their duties.
Well, I don't know about you. I haven't received my $200 rebate. I haven't heard too many people too happy about that. I think that was just damage control. Here you go. We've got this election coming up.
Would you prefer that money be put back into the system?
100%. I can tell you, even on my campaign alone, a lot of the donations I'm receiving are in the amounts of $200 from the Ford government. The actual saying, once I get my check, Andrew, it's going into your campaign.
So for the voters in Barrie Innisfil, why an X beside your name on Election Day?
I will listen to the people. I've got a proven track record of standing up and doing the right thing. It's not easy. I've garnered national, this is just in my union work, national attention in fighting against the big bully, right? And I think that's the fight that we're in now. And I'm happy to do it, and I'm ready to do it.
What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie and Simcoe County have to offer and more. You can get caught up and make it easy to keep up in the future by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, March Mullets are back, and we meet Barrie Liberal candidate Rose Zacharias. Now this.
Our community rocks.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives. It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Barrie's Rock Station, Rock 95.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. March sneaking up on us quickly, which means the March Mullet campaign will be back, which means our friend Amber McCauley is back. You've added a new twist this year. It's not just a march for mullets.
We are going to do March in for a mullet or trim.
Okay.
So we're opening it up to be more inclusive. Really, it's a campaign that we want to be fun and engaging for everybody of all ages and all hair types and styles and personalities.
And tell us what you're doing this year. Are you doing the mullet or the trim? Because you've done the mullet before.
I have done the mullet before, and I will do it once more. This will be my third time, and I would like it to be my last time. So I'm looking to really recruit this year to get some more courageous people to rock a mullet so that it can carry on in the years that follow.
And you're raising money for some very special reasons.
It is a beautiful collaboration this year, yes.
Okay, fill us in.
So I've been working in collaboration with the Georgian College Social Innovation Department. And we've put on a pilot project with Elizabeth Fry. It's called the Shift Disturbers Program. We are working with youth and young adults who are struggling for a variety of different reasons, whether it's finding a sense of belonging and connection to the community, engaging in post-secondary education or employment. And we are collaborating on a program that involves, hands-on skill building through motorcycle rebuild, as well as introducing these participants to mindfulness, restorative justice, and emotional intelligence. So I would describe it as a wraparound service for participants. And because of this collaboration, we've linked arms with the hairdressing department at Georgian College in pitching this year's campaign for mullets or trims. So we can get, bigger, get our message out in a bigger way, raise funds in a bigger way, And if you can't tell, I'm really excited about this year.
You're always really excited. Tell me about this exciting person you dragged along with you.
Yes, I brought Davina Hooper with me from Georgian College. She is a stylist extraordinaire. I pitched the idea to her and Rena, and they were like 100% in. So she can talk a little bit more from the perspective of not just why the stylist could benefit, but even like the meaning of community for folks who may be struggling in post-secondary education, and how that connection is so important for people to thrive.
All right, take it away.
I think it's an excellent opportunity for the students to participate in community involvement. I think that it's crucial in fostering a healthy society and promoting understanding, providing essential supports and resources to those in need in our community.
How many students do you have involved in this?
We have over 120 students in our program,
Wow.
but I think we'll wean it down to probably 27 to 30 students.
Right, good. And they are all well trained in how to do a mullet?
Mullets are very fun. It's a very creative expression. There's no doubt about that. It incorporates multiple facets of what we teach them. So I think that they'll be just great. I think this initiative will be an excellent opportunity for them to develop their skills further.
I'm always fascinated when I go to get a trim, not a mullet, but a trim, with the finger thing, holding and snipping in the right place and getting everything just right. I don't know that I could do that.
I think through practice, anyone can learn how to do it. I have taught my husband, who is a plumber, how to cut hair during the pandemic. So if he can do it, I think anyone can.
Oh, that was interesting.
It really was.
And did he teach you how to plumb?
Absolutely.
All right. So you have an ambidextrous household.
Yes.
Back to March Mullet or Trim. It's happening when?
Well, we are really excited to share that there are some partners involved. So March 24th, it's Monday, that's the big day. Georgian College is doing cuts from 1 to 7. And you can do by donation, just a trim. Or if you want to do a mullet, then we encourage people to raise pledges from friends and family and really kind of go all in that way. We also have partners like Martina from Charisma Salon and Sharon from Connect Salon, who will be doing cuts either at their locations or hopping in to help the students at Georgian College. So this is really an initiative that's bringing all the players in. We're still looking for stylists. We're still looking for people to rock a mullet. I can say that people who call to access our programs will share with me how the program and accessing this network of support has saved their life emotionally. And just there's a lot of despair out there. People are losing hope. And simple programs like this can actually really put people in a different frame of mind, and they feel that way. So that's why I think it's really important. If you're not willing to cut a mullet, maybe you'll pledge someone who will.
I was going to ask, that's an option as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the more pledges that start to come in, the better. So that can motivate people to do the mullet. So let's say someone hears this wonderful talk and says, "Oh, I'll pledge, $100 to someone who does a mullet." We have prizes for people who raise the most money with their mullet. So I think it just takes a few people to get the ball rolling, and it's going to rock.
Mullets, you want people to raise pledges. Trim, a donation.
Yes.
Is there a set amount for the donation? Whatever you want?
Yes.
Let me ask this, because you said, mullet or something else you wouldn't normally do. Could you walk in and say, "What do you think? What suits my head?"
Most definitely. I think that that's everyday life as a hairstylist, which is a great opportunity for our students to grow their skills and be part of the initiative.
Somebody wants to get involved, somebody wants to start raising pledges. How do they go about that?
So we launched some new social media pages, Mullet or Trim Campaign. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. We have links that go to donation pages and links that go to sign-up pages.
And again, it's March 24th.
March 24th is the big day, and
day.
there may be some other days that pop up, and that'll all be clearly posted on our pages.
But if you're looking for a new do, that would be the day
Absolutely.
to go for it. Thanks so much for coming in. Thanks so much for doing this year after year after year. I know you had a bit of a blip through COVID, but it's great that you do this.
Thank you so much for having us here.
She joined us briefly when Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie was in town to launch her campaign a few weeks ago. Rose Zacharias, a doctor, the Liberal candidate for Barrie Springwater Oro-Medonte, is back. She's laying out her plan for Ian MacLennan.
Why are you running in this election, and why the Liberal Party?
I'm running for healthcare. I'm a family doctor, have lived and worked here for 20 years, and I have been at the bedside in the emergency department primarily. So as a family doctor working in the emergency department, and have seen the doctor shortage crisis and how it's impacting my patients. It feels different now in 2025 to be a doctor than it did when I graduated 20 years ago. I've seen what our current healthcare system is doing to my patients. I've seen what the current healthcare system is doing to my colleagues. A few years ago, I was the president at the Ontario Medical Association. So as president, I took 44,000 physician voices, essentially to Queen's Park, to make recommendations to our current government on all things healthcare system crisis. Talked about the doctor shortage, the wait times in the emergency department, the surgical backlog, how the pandemic really revealed the gaps, and those solutions have not been taken up. And this is what I can do.
And those gaps just didn't start. If you say they happened under the Progressive Conservatives, but the roof must have had some crumbling under a Liberal government too, McGuinty and Wynne. So when did it go astray? And the Conservatives will point out about cutbacks to medical schools up in the north too, and blaming that for a doctor shortage. How much is that reality?
So to the degree that the current healthcare system crisis has been on the shoulders of any former government, currently the Conservatives, the Wynne government, Liberals, and NDP in the past, I can't speak to that necessarily. Currently, I'm a doctor in the system, and I want to have a greater impact inside the system. And I know that a lot of the issues we're having right now have been forecasted in the past. They're not being solved by this current government that has been in power since 2018. I don't see a strategy to solving the healthcare system crisis. And that's what makes me enraged and passionate about being part of the solution in a more effective way.
What is the strategy then? I know the Liberals in February the 12th said on healthcare was to end hallway healthcare. I think the Ford government referred to it as hallway medicine. So what is the strategy that the Liberal Party has that you hope will resolve this problem and that the Conservatives, you say, aren't doing?
So the Liberal Party has made an ambitious and realistic promise of providing every person in Ontario a family doctor by 2029. They've costed it $3.1 billion to train, retain, recruit family doctors so that everybody has that gateway trusted relationship into the healthcare system. That is doable. That's actually doable to the tune of $3.1 billion. That's exactly what the current Conservatives have spent on those $200 rebate checks that don't show a strategy at all to any sort of problem inside our provincial government right now. $3.1 billion to give everybody a family doctor by 2029.
Now, New Democrats are promising something similar. Just before the election, the current health minister announced primary care for everybody. So everybody's promising that if you don't have a doctor, we're the ones that are going to get you one. So I guess what makes the Liberal promise more viable than what's being offered by the Conservatives or NDP?
Oh, the Liberal promise is much more viable than what's being offered by the Conservatives, because the Conservatives have been in government since 2018. And yes, very recently, they named Dr. Jane Philpott to be the primary care action lead to give everybody a family doctor. To me, that's too little too late. Why did they not recruit a healthcare leader that was able to solve the family doctor shortage a long time ago?
Prior to Jane Philpott taking her post inside this current government, because this is what doctors have been talking about for a long time. And so on the eve of an election, there is now an announcement that someone's going to solve the family doctor shortage. That is an obvious ploy for votes to me. It has nothing to do with taking serious the healthcare system issues, like 2.5 million people in Ontario not having a family doctor, 55,000 people in my city, in Barrie, that don't have a family doctor. Where's the commitment been to finding my people a family doctor? But if the Liberals come into power, those 55,000 at the end of the first term will have a family doctor.
Absolutely. And honestly, wouldn't that be amazing? Like, that is amazing. I would love 4 years from now to talk about how people used to not have a family doctor, but now they do. And it's made a world of difference to everybody.
Other issue top of mind to voters is affordability, whether that's paying the mortgage, the rent. 7,000 people, I believe, a month use the Barrie Food Bank alone. Bonnie Crombie has talked about doubling Ontario disability support programs. What about in that area, affordability for housing? Somebody coming up and saying, I can't afford my groceries and my rent, I have to choose. There's no quick fix solution, but what do the Liberals offer that isn't being done right now at Queen's Park?
So what the Liberals offer that's not being done right now at Queen's Park is responsible spending. Like, honestly, having integrity in the stewardship of the spending of the money. So yes, we've costed out plans to make life more affordable. The Ontario Liberal plan will save families $1,150 every year. And that's through some very specific initiatives, like cutting middle-class income tax by 22% and removing tax on hydro home heating bills. So those are very specific, intentional policies that the Liberal Party plans to see through. And it's a strategy, it's a commitment, and it's not spending billions on other things. $2 billion to build a luxury spa downtown Toronto, $3 billion to put checks in the back of people's pockets on the eve of an election, $1 billion to make alcohol sales more convenient in corner stores. So the Liberal Party offers trusted, responsible leadership when it comes to spending tax dollars.
You're talking management of people's money?
Management of people's money.
Has the Liberals always done that, do you believe?
So I joined the Liberal Party because Ontario's Liberals have chosen to lead with healthcare. I'm a family doctor that has worked here for 20 years, and I've worked so hard as a healthcare leader to make changes in our system, including having been the president at the Ontario Medical Association. And so that is why right now I've joined Ontario's Liberals to lead with healthcare and have a bigger impact at Queen's Park, where it's going to matter to my patients and my colleagues what we do with the healthcare system in Ontario going forward.
And the Liberals have been zeroed in on healthcare. The current government has talked about affordability, economy, all tied into the tariff and the tariff threat coming from Washington. And the premier has indicated that's why the election was called in the first place. Do you believe that was necessary to deal with the tariff situation?
Absolutely not.
Why are we in an election campaign right now?
So calling this election was absolutely not necessary to deal with Trump's tariffs that seem to be ever more a reality. Doug Ford has a mandate. He had public support from the Liberal and NDP leaders that he could do what it took to take on Trump's tariffs. And yet he called a provincial election to the tune of $190 million. And that is why it's his decision that we made, that we are in the middle of a provincial election. This was not necessary. It was not necessary. It's a distraction. We're in caretaker mode, which means that the government currently is not doing the business of government. All of the cabinet ministers, all of the MPPs in the Conservative government right now are out campaigning. They're getting out the vote. That's hard work. I know it because I'm doing it myself. They're not doing the business of government at a time when it is so important to be doing the business of Ontario's government.
The Liberals have had to act, though, on the tariff situation. They're going to establish a fight tariff fund to give Ontario businesses low interest rates. I think a $15,000 bonus to bring Canadian doctors, nurses who are working in the U.S. back home. So it has triggered something. Is that what, is that, that's part of the Liberal platform, though? They've been forced to make some comment about the tariffs.
I think everyone right now who's stepping into leadership needs to make a comment about the tariffs. We have to respond to that. So, I would want our current government to be taking the tariffs very seriously. What I see going on right now in the Conservative government is that they're not taking it as seriously as they should be. It leaves me little confidence that going forward, decisions will be made in the best interest of Ontarians, because calling this provincial election is an exact example of how a decision was made that's not in the best interest of the people in Ontario. So there's time. It's time for a change in leadership at Queen's Park.
One more order of business before we call it a week. Our regular visit from Barrie Colts commentator Gene Pereira with an update on the Colts' playoff pursuit. He's with our Will Conkin.
Gene, we got another not-so-great stretch for the Colts. A hyped matchup against the powerhouse London Knights saw Barrie get handled 8-4. Then a 10-round shootout against North Bay didn't go Barrie's way either, lost 5-4. And then a 6-4 defeat at the hands of the Kingston Frontenacs. Gene, was it just bad luck, a sick roster, and facing good teams, or did you see something different?
Well, I think obviously it's London. That's a really good hockey club, and the top team in the CHL right now, and Barrie stuck with them for a bit, but in that third period, things really got away, and talking to Marty Williamson, we just didn't see the same energy from this Barrie team, and with a team like London that was really hyped up for the game. They made them pay, and again, it was a tough start to the week, but a really good London team. Got to give credit to the Knights.
I'm curious about the 10-round shootout with the battalion. Describe the scene a little bit. I know you said there was only one goal scored, though.
Yeah, he's in possession of the winner, but, it was just, going back and forth with, an opportunity. It's a big point at this time of year. Obviously, for North Bay, they get 2 points in the battle with Ottawa for that last playoff spot in the East, and for the Colts, it was an opportunity to grab an extra point in their battle to try to finish atop the conference and hold on to that division lead. But credit to North Bay, they've won 2 straight against Barrie now, and it just goes to show you that you can't really afford to take nights off. But as well for the Colts, they had Bo Jelsma out, Nakey out, and kind of the first signs that there was an illness going around the club, and it left him shorthanded for that game. And no doubt, you lose a player like Jelsma and Nakey, and you already got Bertucci out with mono, so some key players out of the lineup.
And then for the Kingston Frontenacs game, even Marty Williamson, he got sick. Talk about that.
Yeah, that was just, Tuesday night, obviously, in Kingston, a makeup game for the Monday family day. But, that's where you really got to see just how hard it hit the Colts roster was, Patterson, Hemming, Akey, Jelsma, Bertucci. They were just, it really tested the Colts' depth, and it gave opportunity for some other guys to step up. And a game where, I think there's a bit of a tough period. Getting 4 penalties in that first period really hurt Barrie. They ended up trailing 3-0. There was a bit of a turnaround there after Kingston had scored first. Bogan had scored a goal, but it was ruled offside, and it would have been 1-1, and you go to a 3-0 first period. You put yourself in that early hole, and they played much better in the second period, got again to within 1 goal, but another late goal in the second by Kingston made it 4-2, and then an early one a minute into the third, 5-2. But once again, Barrie found a way to battle back and make it a 1-goal hockey game midway through that third period, but an empty net goal sealed it. But, again, this is a really, I know they don't like to use excuses, but there's no doubt the Colts are really shorthanded, missing a quarter of their roster, and, as well, having guys playing that were less than 100% that are under the weather as well. So I think for the Colts now, it's all about trying to get healthy here these next couple of days. But again, with this kind of strain that's going around, you don't know if that's going to be the case, and they're still going to be shorthanded on Thursday.
Like you said, no rest for the Colts. Yeah, they tonight at Sadlin against the Owen Sound Attack, Friday in Kitchener, and then they host the Peterborough Petes Saturday. Is that really what it is, Gene? Just need to rest up and just give it your best?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, that you can get guys healthy and just get a bit of a rest here. And the hope was that some of the guys were going to come back and be able to get into the lineup tonight. But again, the schedule doesn't help here with 3 games in 3 nights, and Owen Sound again, another team that is in a fight for a playoff spot. So they've played a bit better of late, and they played the Colts tough. So again, another another game where you're going to get really tested with your depth here. And important points because right now teams like Brantford, Oshawa, Kingston, they just continue to win, and that only puts more pressure on the Colts.
For sure. Well, thanks again for the insight, Gene. Till the next one.
Thanks, Will.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical tweaking, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.